Right, having saved all of the raw material that you're going to put into this promotional animation, we're now ready to start. So starting from Flash, we want a new document, and if you click on the document and look where it says size, 550 by 400 pixels, we want it to be 400 by 400. Sensible approach is to colour the background a bit, and then you can see whereabouts exactly on the screen the things that you're working with are. The next one is View, go down to Magnification and do Show Frame. Now, the animation itself will be larger than this, but this allows you to see exactly what's going on the frame all the time. The next stage on is to import to library all of the images that you've already saved. F11 button, and you can now see the images that you've got down there, and you just look through them to see which one's going to be the first one on. And the first one in my case is this one, so I just drag that onto the screen until it completely covers the stage. Right, now you see this little grey line around it. That shows it has not been changed into a symbol, and it's only when it's changed into a symbol that it's possible to apply effects like transparency. So modify, convert to symbol, it must be a graphic at the bottom there, and if I give it title album 1, in Flash and Macromedia, it is better not to put spaces inside file names. Okay, so there we go, album 1. Now, I've got 6 images, and the animation is going to last for 30 seconds, so each one's going to last approximately 5 seconds, and at 12 frames a second, that's 60 frames. So if I go up to 60 and click, and do right click, insert keyframe. Now go back to the beginning, frame 1, go down to the bottom there where it says tween, and select motion. As soon as that arrow goes across, it shows that this part of it is going to work fine. 60 frames, I'm going to go to frame 15, right click, insert keyframe, and then come back 15 from the end, right click, insert keyframe. Now the reason for doing this is that I want the transparency to start off at 0 to 15 frames, to be full to 45 frames, and then fade out to 0 again. So I now click on frame 1, click on the image, and where it says colour, I select alpha, and the alpha goes to 0. If I look up frame 15, it's back full. Now go across to frame 60, this is the last frame, and I want the click on the picture again, alpha 0. Right, now if I go back to the beginning of that, click on this one and press go, it fades in, holds, and fades out again. That's fine, that's what's supposed to happen. Right, layer 1, double click where it says layer 1 and put down the name of the image on that layer. And then go to the little dot under the padlock, click. That locks that layer and stops anything happening to it, so you don't accidentally put 2 things on the same layer, because if you do, it won't work properly. New layer, just there. There's my new layer. Now, if I go along, the fade out starts at frame 45. So if I click on frame 45 on my new layer and insert a keyframe, I'm now going to bring in the image that I'm going to use after this, and this one's going to fade in as the first image fades out. If I look through my images now, right, I think I'm going to do this one next. So I drag this chap in, put him over the top there. You see the grey line around it. It reminds me that I need to go modify, convert to symbol. This one is stage 1. Say OK, and the same applies. 45, I'm doing it 60 frames each, so it's going to go to 105. There's 105, right click, insert keyframe. Go back to the first frame on that layer, there, tween, motion. And you see the arrow going across, everything's working. Click on frame 60. Frame 60 you'll see is the frame on the lower layer where it becomes invisible. So at that stage I want mine to be fully visible. Insert keyframe. And then go to the other end, come back 15 to 90, right click, insert keyframe. And then it's the same process I've already used. Click on the first frame, click on the picture, alpha, 0. Go to the very end, last frame, click on the picture, alpha, 0. Now if I go back, click on my first frame and see what happens. I should get a crossfade. Fade in, crossfade, fade out again. That's fine. Same process. I've called the picture on this, if you remember, stage 1. I'm going to lock it and then create my next layer. Go across, and you can see that same process at 90 is when this one begins to fade out. So it's right click, insert keyframe. Now let's have a look through the images again. And I want another image of an album. Yes, that will do fine. So drag that on. Okay, I've got my dotted line around it. Now what do I do with my dotted line? That's right, it's modify, convert to symbol. This one is album 2. It's a graphic again. Say OK. And then the same thing, it's at 90. It's going to be here for 60 frames, so I'm going to go to frame 150. Right click, insert keyframe. Right now, what do? I go to the first frame and click on the first frame. Then it's tween, motion. And there's the arrow. Everything is working. Go to 105. 105, you remember, is when the last one becomes invisible. Right click, insert keyframe. It went to 150, so I come back. 140, 135. Right click, insert keyframe. Then go to the beginning of this layer again. Click on the first frame, picture, alpha, 0. Last frame, picture, alpha, 0. Right, let's see what this is looking like. Fade in, hold, crossfade, second crossfade, and fade out again. Yep, that's looking fine. That was called album 2. I'm going to lock it, new layer. Now remember, as you follow this, that you can turn off the animation, the tutorial, at any time. So you can turn it off, do your work, and then come back to it to get it to remind you what to do next. Now this process is going to go on all the way through. Click 135, insert keyframe, have a look at my images. I want a picture of the band. I think we'll have the band on stage. Drag it across. Now you can see how useful it's been preparing the images. They're all 400 by 400. They all fit perfectly. Okay, so I've got my image on. The grey line round reminds me what I've got to do now. Convert the symbol. Stage 2. It's a graphic. Save fine. It's 135, it's going to be on for 60. Right click, insert keyframe. I have to say it's not vital. The exact number of frames is not vital. If you get within a few, that's near enough.